Okay, so we're happy to get to your comment and question. I know that there's a woman over there that would like to ask the next question.
Thank you. I'm from Scituate. Who here is from Scituate? Raise your hand.
Hello.
So I'm on the land trust in the town as well, which is a municipal land trust. We don't have any say whatsoever in what happens to the watershed that we live among. And not many people know where their water comes from in Rhode Island. At least now, I guess they are finding out. I'd like to know what the plan is for conservation easement on this watershed area if this were to happen. There's no mention at all of Scituate. And can I finish my questions because I have a few? There's no mention at all of Scituate in this plan, in this bill, anything. There's nothing. It's like we don't even exist, and that is just wrong. I think that, I grew up in Providence, so I understand that some people may not be aware, but you're talking a massive amount of land that is worth much more than $400 million. And I think that what seems like the undercurrent here is that I know you're saying you're not selling, but the land was worth much more than the system. So the fear is, where are the protections that we're not going to develop this land, or that LEC cannot develop? They cannot put solar, they cannot put wind, they cannot put any type of fossil fuel energy in there, even gas, fracking, things like that. They can't clear cut any of that, or development. They can't sell the land to private parties. Any of that stuff. Where is the conservation easement in here? And also, on the tax treaty with Scituate, what's the plan for that? That hasn't been mentioned. I know there's negotiations in place. I want to know about that.
Yep. So if you don't mind, I'll address the tax treaty. So the city, because the Scituate Reservoir is in Scituate, and it provides water for 60% of the state, and Providence Water is operated as effectively a city department of the city of Providence. Providence Water pays payment in lieu of taxes, so a pilot payment to the town of Scituate. That pilot payment is renegotiated after the term that agreement is over, and that negotiation continues. That negotiation is going to continue in good faith. I know that there's been some changes in council in the last election, so we continue to negotiate, and I'm happy to provide an update on where that process is. I don't have specific information on where it is. And then on the land conservation piece, that's a really good point. We talked about that last time. So the city has continued to look into permanent land conservation around the reservoir. The reservoir has thousands of acres of land around it, and Providence Water has, over the course of time, continued to acquire more and more land to protect that watershed. I said this last time, but the biggest prairie land in the state of Rhode Island is actually in the Scituate Reservoir as part of the protected land. So there's some very delicate ecosystems that we have to be thinking about as we think about Providence Water protections. So right now, Providence Water land is protected by the board itself. It's not protected by any permanent land easements. So that's actually something that we would like to explore more and be able to do. And we agree that the land could be worth a lot in those types of situations if you're going to do a land conservation deal. The challenge we have is because of how the land is regulated, a lot of those deals require recreational use, and as probably most of Scituate residents know, there's definitely a lot of restrictions. I'm sure people use it anyway, but there are a lot of restrictions on the land. So we're looking at how to navigate that so that we could potentially do some deals around land conservation and full protection of the land.
Let me answer that question. Probably.
Say again? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
There should be recreational usage of that land.
Yeah, so she basically said there should be recreational use of that land. And I think in policy, I personally agree that it would be nice to open up some of that land. Some of the FERC regulations around the dam have limitations around it, but there's potential there, and we absolutely are looking into that as a broader solution. We didn't come prepared to talk about that today because the bigger challenge is all of those parcels were acquired over the course of time, and it's thousands of parcels, so the legal work around doing that is actually pretty extensive, but it's absolutely something that we remain interested in doing.